Hey everybody, it's Dr. Wood, and today I want to talk to you about editing your peer's paper, the peer review process, or at least what we're going to be doing within this class to help one another out in order to make sure that we are submitting the best writing that we possibly can. Anyway, so I went ahead and pulled Miss Jamie Rodriguez's, who's from the class of 2020. I pulled her paper here just because she had already given me permission to use it in the course anyway, and so it's just going to be an example bit of writing I can work with. So you will be assigned a fellow classmate to review their paper, and likewise you've been assigned to someone else to they can review your paper. And so this process here is to make sure you're not having a bunch of typos, to make sure that you are getting everything that's in the rubric is present there, and all of that. But the other thing to look for too, or the other practice here, is to get you used to going through someone else's work and kind of going through with a sort of more analytical eye, and to help them strengthen how they write, right? To make things more succinct, to make them sound more clinically appropriate, things like that. And not only that, but I think by reading other people's work, that also will help you to see things that you like about their writing and maybe things you don't like about their writing, and then incorporate that back into your work. So if you see someone, the way that someone worded something, you're like, wow, that's a really smart way to word that. I want to include that in my writing from here on out. I think that that's totally appropriate. I wouldn't call that plagiarism necessarily, unless you're just wholesale copying and pasting their work, but you can at least have an idea of how you may want to word things, different vocabulary choices they made that you may want to start incorporating, things like that. And so anyway, so we're going to be using Microsoft Word here, and again, this is our standard because I think most everyone has access to it, at least through Nova. And so I want to talk about the way we're going to be reviewing these things, and basically that's to include, or to use, track changes. Now, most of you probably know how to use track changes, but if not, I'm going to make sure everyone is caught up to speed here. Basically, you want to start off by going into the Review tab. And then the first thing we're going to want to do is click track changes. Now, why do we use track changes? Well, that's because if I were to say make an edit into someone's paper, and I were to say, okay, I don't, let's not use this here. Let's just go ahead and take this out. It's really difficult to tell that you actually did anything because there's no indicator that something has changed here. So what we can instead do is go ahead and use track changes. We'll just click this button here. And now any changes that I make into this document will then now be marked, right? So boom, now we know that there has been a change here to delete something or to add something in, all of that, okay? Now, this is important because when you are giving it back to the person who you edited, they can see all of this, and they can either accept things, they can reject them, whatever the case may be. And similar to that, you'll be doing the same to your edited piece of work. And basically the way to get rid of this is either to reject it, saying, no, I don't think that's a good change, or you accept it and saying, yeah, that is a good change. If I wanted to reject it, basically I'd hit reject. And then, okay, I said, no, I don't want to change it. It's going to put it back to the way it originally was. On the other hand, if I want to accept it and be like, okay, that's a good change, then you go ahead and hit the accept button. And you would do that throughout the entire paper until everything has either been accepted or rejected, to where it's back to a nice clean copy that has no more track changes on it. Okay. Now, when you go back through and you want to do your own edits, if you don't want to include the track changes, you just click that, turn it off, and then you're good to go, right? The other important thing, which I think is also good to do, is to use comments. And so basically you can highlight anywhere in the document, hit new comment, and then you could write down whatever you want. So, hey, I think you should change this word to this word. I think you should maybe expound upon this a little more, whatever the case may be. So that being said, oh, and I'm sorry, when you get your copy back, when you see your comments, when you want to get rid of them, make sure you go ahead and just hit delete, and that way it'll get rid of the comment there, okay? Because when you turn this in as your rough draft and as the final GP1, I want to make sure these are clean copies. When I say clean copy, it means there's no track changes, there's no comments, it's just black and white text, okay? So that brings me to the topic of when you're editing someone's paper, what's the etiquette there, right? Because it's very easy to say, well, this is dumb, we'll cut this out. If you're going to be making small grammatical changes, you probably don't need to include a whole lot of information about that. If they had a typo, something like that, if they put effect instead of affect or vice versa, that stuff you can just make a track change to. You don't have to worry about it. For things where you're deleting text or if you're adding in text, sometimes it's helpful to add in a comment to say why you're doing that or what you think about that. And again, we're trying to provide constructive criticism. Now, I know many of you are able to give constructive criticism because I've read my evals before, and they're generally constructive. Meaning that it's going to be providing information as to why you think you should see a change. Why do you want this deleted? Well, because I think it's too verbose. I think, instead of using all this wordage, you can just condense it down into this sentence, right? You could say, hey, you mentioned that X is better than Y, but you don't really provide any supporting evidence. Do you have a reference that does support that claim? These are things you want to include there, right? This in no way should be any way to air out your grievances you might have with people. Again, I'm randomly assigning you, but I could be assigning you your bitter enemy, and I'm sorry if I did that on accident, but keep it constructive, keep it civil. I don't want to see anything where people are writing like nasty grams to one another. Now, I've never had a problem with this in the past. I do not expect to have this problem with any of you because I know you're all fine, upstanding individuals, but I at least wanted it to be said so that way you've at least heard it once. Okay. So that's it for the review assignment. If you have any questions about this, or if you have like technical issues you run into with doing the track changes, or if you're anything at all, feel free to reach out to me. We can talk about it. This little assignment will be coming up in a couple of weeks, so just keep that in the back of your mind. Be aware that your stuff you're writing is going to be reviewed by someone else, so just that can be intimidating to some people, but that's part of the process, right? More heads are better than one, so by getting multiple people to read it and eyeball it and provide feedback, that's a very constructive process for you, and it's going to be good to make sure that you're getting the best work turned out at the very end. So that's it for me. If you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, I will talk to you soon. Thanks a lot. Bye.